Judith De Silva is a royal commentator and is with me now. Judith, how much of a shock was this? Thank you for joining me today, because there was so much speculation and there was a lot of unfairness, really, but also people saying, well, the royals gave us some information about what was wrong with Kate, but not the whole picture. And actually, when it comes to being frank with people, previously we didn't know really anything about the royals' health, and now we're given a bit of detail, but now we've been given really all the detail. What do you make of this, Judith?
I think first of all, it's like the actual diagnosis of being treated for preventative treatment for cancer is shocking, because that's possibly the worst news that we could have had with the explanation for what's happened thus far. But then, because I was during the whole furore, I was out in America and I was speaking to journalists there, and all of them were saying, "What's going on with Kate? What's going on with Kate?" And I always would say, as journalists, our job is to deal with facts, not speculation. Look at what you have in front of you and what has happened thus far. King Charles was very forthright with his diagnosis and what was happening with his treatment. There was, and they say nature abhors a vacuum, but there was a vacuum around the dissemination of information around Kate. That indicates, one, it's something serious, and two, something they don't completely have a hold on. So they can't give us information that will be accurate or factual, so give them nothing. Then you had this wave of speculation, people's misinformation that kept happening and swelling. And we all know that the firm operates a press office that deals with controlling and curating the narrative around the royal family. Still, there was a vacuum of information. That was further evidence.
But is it any of our business? Judita, sorry, it's Judita rather than Judith. Apologies, I got that wrong. Is it any of our business actually to know what she's suffering from? I mean, we've been told, for example, the king has cancer, but we haven't been told what type of cancer it is. Have we any right to know that?
We have no right to it, but unfortunately, when you're public figures, you are subject to the tone of the day. And in modern times, we live in the social media era, which has kind of steered society to a place where they feel, because I have so much access, I almost feel like I have entitlement. So you're fighting this hydra that keeps mutating as technology keeps evolving. And in order to survive, you've got to adapt. When simply put, they don't owe us anything. They don't have to. But the way you operate is as a public figure, and public figure requires information and a narrative that is curated to represent what is going on.
Judita, sorry to interrupt you, but you're saying they don't owe us anything. I mean, some people would say, I think I basically agree with you, but to play devil's advocate in that, some people would say, well, actually, hold on, they are the royal family, they are the constitutional, well, Charles anyway is the constitutional head of this country, William will be king, Kate will be queen, and I'm sure they'll do a really good job, but they are public figures, they are constitutionally important, so maybe we do have actually some right to information there.
There's a clear difference. They owe us public service. They do not owe us personal, private information. Those are two very separate things. But unfortunately, we live in a time where the lines are so completely blurred. Once you're a public figure, people assume you owe us every part of you. And that isn't right.
That's a really good point, Judith. It's a really good point.
And I think this is a wonderful learning moment, because all those who speculated in a negative way, in a cynical way, in a derogatory way, you have to take a moment, take a beat to think, this is, before they're royals, they're a family. And not just any kind of family with young children. When you think of whatever experience you've had, be it personal or close to people with cancer, normally in families when children are very young, you know they don't have the capacity to understand the gravity of it. And a lot of parents choose not to tell the children, and they navigate their way through it. Unfortunately, Kate is backed into a corner where the public will find out, and you don't want a situation where the children find out secondhand. So that's why she probably made that comment about it's taken time, especially with Louis, who's the youngest, to get them to understand what's going on, because now they have to deal with what's happening in the family and how the public is reacting to it as well, because they're public figures.
You're absolutely right, and those children are very young. And of course that they will be familiar with the fact that they're public figures already. They know that, they'll have seen pictures of themselves in the paper and on television and so on, even if they don't fully understand what the future holds for them. But explaining this to children, explaining such a serious condition, and you know, you don't want to scare children, but of course it is a very, very serious issue. We'll be talking to someone a little bit later on about this, to have to explain to her children that her husband had cancer and later died, unfortunately. But I just want to ask your opinion, Judita, in terms of the children themselves, because they are growing up in the public eye. We do give them some privacy, and we should give them more, I think. But nonetheless, they are public property too, and they will be dealing with this when they go to school. For example, there will be people saying, "Oh, I saw your mummy is not well," for example. I mean, there's a lot that they'll have to deal with in all of this as well, above and beyond what a normal, I mean, what's normal, but a straightforward, ordinary private citizen would have to deal with.
Absolutely, and that's probably what has taken time, because you've got to tell them that the way it's going to play out is that we're going to have to deal with this. This is what mommy and daddy are going to go through. But when you go to school, people might say this. People in the street might yell that. Just know that when it happens, this is what it really means. This is the truth. Come home. We will look after you. And you have to kind of constantly be on the lookout. And remember, for the isolation of Kate and herself, the job as a mother doesn't stop. The job as being you are the mother of the future king doesn't stop. So while she's dealing with what she's going through, she's constantly got to be aware that, how do I soothe them? How do I protect them? How do I nurture them through it? It's a lot to carry. So people going forward, you have to be mindful that think of what it is to just be a human being, and then think what it is to be a human being going through a tragic human experience with the optics of the world on you. There must be a heightened level of sensitivity, because you run the risk of doing her extra harm because of the psychological pressure you put her under.